I was part of the layoff in Unity in May. I actually had a job like basically the day after I was officially done at Unity. And the only reason that happened was because I'm always talking to people. And everybody on LinkedIn, I'm sure, gets 1,000 posts a day or lots of messages from random recruiters and different people. Always be talking to people. Even if you think your job is the most secure, always be talking to people.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of GameLogic Behind the Games. Delighted to welcome Mike Wetherick onto the pod today. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Yeah, very well, thanks, mate. Very well. Started writing down all of your roles, and it was going to take me too long, so I've just gone to your LinkedIn page. You are currently CTO at Mega Crush, fractional CTO at Blink Moon, and also the studio technical director at Britannia Media. Is that correct?
Yeah, keeping busy.
Very busy.
Lots of irons in the fire.
Sounds like it. Good on you, staying busy at the moment. And currently based in Vancouver, Canada?
Yeah, I'm just outside, sort of on the road up to Whistler, sort of living in the middle of the woods, like we all should probably.
Yeah, sounds all right, that. Although probably one of the few places colder than London right now, I would guess.
Well, we're not doing too bad. We got some snow this week, but it's... Yeah, like I was saying earlier, it's much like Seattle, lots of rain.
Yeah, much like London as well, unfortunately. So, Mike, I know it's quite a long and varied background, but it looks like a pretty awesome journey. And I'm wondering if you don't mind, just kind of talk us through your journey through the industry up to these various roles that you hold now, and talk to us about how you got there, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. So I've been doing this for a little while. I literally go back to the Commodore 64 days. That's when I started programming, was on those in the 80s. So yeah, I'll date myself horribly there. But I really kind of created a role in the industry in around 2003 where incorporated, basically made myself a job with a buddy of mine. And we were basically building game engine tech. So it's interesting with some of the recent trends around open source with Godot and some of these other engines. We were actually doing an open source game engine in 2003. That was kind of the big thing that we were trying to do, and always been a big proponent of open source. So yeah, we were licensing game engines, kind of making the premium editions, printing manuals, the whole bit.
Nice.
This was back when it's also another funny sort of full circle where back in the day, the reason we started making game engines and trying to actually ship them was because there wasn't anything available. Like you could license Unreal for $1 million or whatever it was at the time, or Gamebryo or some of these other the big engines that were kind of around then. But there was nothing for indies. There was nothing for small studios. So this is pre-Unity, sort of all these other things. So kind of created that and I gave it a good run. Ran a studio till about 2008. Until I think many people in the industry and across the tech world kind of had a lot of fun in 2008 with the financial fun. But yeah, so after that, it was funny. I actually met the founders of Unity back in 2005 at GDC. We were talking about GDC, where it was actually their first time in North America. So
back in sort of 2005.
Yeah, it was. They had their original Goo Ball demo with Unity 1. They came up to us at our booth. We had a booth showing off our tech, and they came up and were like, "Do you like our demo?" And literally, they didn't know anyone in North America anything. So yeah, took them out to party and stuff. It was fun. It was kind of going way back. But yeah, so after I parted ways with the other founders at the company, I literally kind of went one day, okay, now I'm a Unity person, and started learning Unity. This is one of those can't beat them and join them. The paths for game engines really diverged when the iPhone came out, and Unity got on it early. Because back then it was like Garage Games and us and a couple other players, but had the kind of went into mobile. We had been working at my studio. We shipped a couple mobile games this is back before iPhone days and stuff like that. And joined a studio called DNA, which was a Japanese studio trying to get into North America. So was employee. This is sort of a similar story I'll hear a few times. Kind of a first North American employee on the ground, kind of building the studio from the ground up. Did that with DNA till there were about 75, 80 people when I left there. And then afterwards worked at Namco Bandai, which again, they were trying to set up their studio in Vancouver. Helped them. I was their first North American engineer in the Vancouver studio. Helped build that out. I've done a lot of the whole building out studios from the ground up. So
yeah, it seems like, is that something you enjoy?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's those early exciting days where anything's possible, and you're kind of building teams, building out sort of the prototypes, and kind of helping set things up. Which is exactly what I'm doing right now with Britannia. Actually, it's kind of building out their studio, kind of coming up with what's the plan, what's the roadmap, and then anyways, go back. Yeah, so after Namco, it was some friends of mine who ran a studio in town called Roadhouse. They were about 180, 200 people. They needed some more tech leadership, so. Or they asked me to come on board, and I helped run their central tech group, which was kind of, you can think of anything that wasn't game specific. So it was their build systems, analytics, DevOps, like all of the IT, everything, central tech that was shared across all their different games. So we had a team of about 20, 25, 30, something like that across all those different disciplines. And unfortunately, the studio, as you're hearing them across all over the time nowadays, the studio kind of went bankrupt, and we ended up having to shut down. And I was lucky enough to happen to be talking to Unity at the time, because I'd been using Unity since 2010. So this was 2015, 2016-ish. So I knew a bunch of people at Unity, reached out, and was lucky enough to come on board in their product management group. Which was very early I think there was 6 product managers in all of Unity at that time. This was around, yeah.
Did they remember you from GDC?
Went from there. Pardon?
Did they remember you from GDC back in the day? From you taking them out on the lash?
David did, yeah. I chatted with David about it. It was, it was funny. We kind of went way back in time, but yeah. And then had spent 7 years at Unity, and until their most recent layoff in May, and here we are today.
Nice one. So one thing I did notice, Mike, is all of your roles so far have been pretty technical, right? A lot of CTO, game director roles. But you were also an instructor at the Art Institute of Vancouver, right? About looking at game design. Were you instructing game design? Yeah. So you've got another string to your bow there. Yeah,
I've kind of been in that, like, producer / tech director, kind of bounce back and forth, and kind of led teams of up to like 100. I was leading a team at Unity that was 150 plus people.
Wow.
And, it's kind of, again, similar to being sort of the tech director or producer. They're all very similar at that stage. It's more people management than kind of the technical side of it. So, it's and when it comes down to it, I just love making games. So I'm always prototyping. I'm always my hobbies are making games. So even on top of all the roles, I still work on side projects and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, that's cool. Game using C# and Unity still mainly?
Yeah, it's I think, like a lot of people in the industry, there's been a lot of challenges trying to be a Unity fan these days. But when it comes down to it, it's the one I'm most comfortable with. So I'm also been using Unity long enough that there's almost nothing I can't do with it. So if I come up with an idea, I can pretty confident I can execute it in Unity. So
nice,
even if it's just as a prototype or proof of concept.
And even kind of like pre-educational, like your first role in the gaming industry, were you always passionate about gaming? Were you a gamer as a kid? Were you into coding as a kid? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, so it really got sparked when my parents literally bought a Commodore 64, and I think it was the early 80s or whatever. They came home, and my dad was basically like, these things are going to be big. We should have one. You should have exposure. And I was immediately hooked. And back in the day, it was literally Compute Gazette. You would get a magazine, you would type in the random numbers, and then it would spit out a game. You didn't really have, like, we didn't have the internet or any of this kind of stuff. So you'd buy a magazine, type it out, and get a random game. And I was hooked immediately. So I think it was, I can't remember what year, probably 85, 86. And my parents got me how to make games for the Commodore 64. And it was in BASIC. It was all, they were terrible, but yeah, that's literally all I did from that point on.
And you never look back.
Yeah, I've been very lucky that kind of always knew that this was kind of what I was going to do. So yeah, it just kind of, yeah, went from there, honestly. Like, I spent about 10 years in the music industry too. So played in tons of bands and touring and kind of all that, but always kind of was dabbling on the computers and things like that.
Yeah.
In about, I think it was 98, 99, I decided to go to school because I was like, I really need to get into computers, but nobody will hire me because I didn't have any actual experience. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go to it was one of these for-profit, just kind of get a diploma schools, 12 months, kind of bang through that, and then got my first actual role in tech. Kind of then spent more in like the web.com kind of world until 2001, which then kind of threw everything, all that up in the air. And I was like, all right, now what I'm going to do. And then that's when I created the studio with my buddy in 2003. So.
Nice. And you've done some pretty cool stuff with some pretty cool companies along the way. Like, can you think back over that career? Is there any one point in time or one team that you were a part of or one studio that you're part of that really stands out as your favorite? Yeah,
honestly, I was very lucky at Unity. I joined, like, this was pre-IPO. It was kind of the glory days of Unity where things were possible. And I was lucky enough to partner up with a woman by the name of Isabel Riva, who was running the Made with Unity team, which it was kind of a hashtag and then suddenly became an actual team where we were basically partnered and supporting indie trying to celebrate the devs using Unity. So this was about 3-4 months after I joined Unity. I switched and kind of founded that team. And this was when we got to work with Neil Blomkamp and his Oat Studios team and kind of helped create the Atom shorts there and kind of led into the Disney work we did with them. And it was all the same core team. It was about 4 or 5 people. We're kind of a ninja strike team that kind of worked with creators and did really cool stuff. So that lasted 3.5, 4 years. And it was, it was fantastic. We worked with creators all around the world. We worked with like I said, the Disney team and the Oats team, and kind of still working with that same core crew until I left Unity. It had changed names and kind of been reorged a couple times since, but it was awesome. Definitely if you had told me before I joined Unity that I'd be working on films and animation and be lucky enough to have an Emmy and all this kind of stuff, I wouldn't have believed you. So, have you got an Emmy? Yeah. So I was part of the team that got Unity their first Emmy, and I've got this. It's sitting over there.
Mate,
so we won an
cool.
Emmy for advances in real-time animation, real-time technology.
Wow.
So.
Well, you're the first person I've had on the pod who's had an Emmy. Well, that I'm aware of.
There you go. It's kind of a weird one because you're like, really? People who get Emmys are like, I don't know, stars and stuff like that. But no, it's fun. It was the technical Emmys in 2018, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations! That is cool. Yeah, I like that.
It was a fun experience.
I know off camera, I know we spoke about all your different roles, but you mentioned that your primary role at the moment is, well, most of your time is spent with Britannia Media, where you're the studio technical director. So, I guess part of the reason why we're doing this pod is because we want to speak to different people, different locations with different skill sets and learn more about what they do. So I was wondering if you could give a little bit of an overview of what your job entails as the studio technical director.
Sure. Yeah. So when I was approached to set it up, it was literally just one person. Whitney's kind of found the studio director, and a lot of it is kind of setting up the groundwork for the studio. So this is everything from figuring out how we're going to work, what we're going to work on. In practical sense, it's a lot of filling out confluence on like, here's best practices, here's how we're going to code, here's how we're going to work. Making sure we've got things like Perforce and build systems kind of set up. And then what we're working on right now is kind of prototyping that first idea. Like many studios, I think the financial challenges that the industry is facing right now is you're trying to figure out not only are you working on the right thing, but doing it as efficiently as possible. And so I started in December, and we've kind of been prototyping for a little while. Again, I joke, it's kind of, we're at the buying the coffee maker for the studio kind of phase. Even though we're remote, that's kind of what we're doing. Is that you think of anything that a studio might need is making sure we've got like a way to share code, a way to collaborate, a way to work together, kind of making sure all those pieces of the puzzle are in place. And then sort of phase 2 is kind of what's our hiring plan? Like how are we actually going to build out the studio and hire the people that we need to kind of flesh it out. Right now, the studio is literally 3 people. It's sort of Whitney, Jess, and myself, the design director, studio director, and tech. And we're just, a lot of market research, chatting with publishers, trying to figure out what's the right direction for the studio. We're very lucky that the parent company Britannia has kind of seeded this studio, so we aren't. Unlike many people in the industry, we have a runway. We're kind of building the things, and then it's just making sure we can kind of build the right thing and kind of set up the machine for success. So
yeah, exciting times. That does sound interesting. We can't get away from, unfortunately at the moment, as we speak today, 29th of Feb, just yesterday, PlayStation have let nearly 1,000 people go. I think EA today have let a load of people go as well. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, out there looking for work in the industry. And I'm wondering, in your role or in your previous roles as a CTO, tech director, do you have any advice for programmers that are looking to get back into work or anything that you might be able to advise them on when it comes to interview prep or resume prep, anything like that? Any top tips that you could share?
I think the big thing, having kind of gone through going through lots of resumes on an ongoing basis from senior to sort of junior and sort of first entry level, I think the big one is just making sure that you have the ability to show what you do. For engineers, it's set up a GitHub, get some code in there, get some projects, work on game jams. Just because you're not employed doesn't mean you shouldn't be trying to advance things, trying out new tech, trying out new experiments. It could be just working on a game that for a day or two, like I just spend the weekend. If like I've got kids, I've got a family, so I can't spend all day every day working on stuff, but always be trying to sort of expand your ability to what you're comfortable in. And then I think the big one for in general is always be talking to people. Like I actually posted a fairly long thread on Twitter on sort of how I've kind of managed to sort of negotiate some of these challenges in the industry. It's, for example, I was part of the layoff in Unity in May. I actually had a job before, like basically the day after I was officially done at Unity. And the only reason that happened was because I'm always talking to people. And everybody on LinkedIn, I'm sure, gets 1,000 posts a day or lots of messages from random recruiters and different people. Always be talking to people. Even if you think your job is the most secure, always be talking to people. That's how I found so many of my roles over the years is just happened to be before Unity, but I was happy with the studio. It was with a group of people I'd known for a long time. We were all making really cool stuff. You never know. 2 weeks later, the studio shut down because of a cascade of circumstances. And I just happened to be talking to Unity, and I was like, all right.
Yeah. And I bet in 2005, you never, ever would have predicted when you're out on the lash with David from Unity, in 10, 15 years' time, you're going to be part of a very, very big company.
Exactly.
That's class. I think some of the other CTOs I've spoken to, but totally in line with your point around kind of side projects, being able to demonstrate your work. And I don't know what you think, Mike, but I think, yes, people want to see that you can code. They want to see how you think, how you problem solve. But from what I gather, it's not just about the technical nous. It's also about genuinely being interested in the tech, genuinely being interested in making games as well, and having that willingness to and want to go and do it outside of work, right? I don't know if you agree with that, and I know you do some of that yourself personally, actually, right?
Yeah, it's like I fully understand there are people who like working in whatever space it is, tech or games. It's the day job, and it's not something they really want to do outside. That's fine in my opinion. Honestly, you kind of want to have outside interest, especially for people who are getting into the industry. There's a lot of, I guess, single-minded focus on like, I must like games and that's all I do, which isn't, I think, entirely healthy. A lot of what I've done over the years is outside of games, whether it's music or other arts. However, you do need to be able to show that you're interested in what you're trying to get a job at. For every single role that's out there right now, you probably have hundreds, if not thousands, of people applying for it. So I think on Twitter this morning, I saw there were 17,000 people in the industry looking for work. And that's people who were in the industry, let alone people who are trying to get into the industry. Yeah. It's extremely challenging right now. So anything you can do to try and make yourself stand out or elevate yourself above the crowd is only going to help.
Absolutely. And Mike, whilst I've got you on camera, do you mind me asking what your handle on Twitter or X is? So it'd be great to have a look at the thread that you
Sure. It's Gekido, Gekido.
Gekido. I'll check it out after this for sure, but I really appreciate that.
I rant a lot on there.
So do I. I talk about my rubbish football team. That's pretty much it. And then they complain on social media about poor customer service. But I'll definitely check you out. Mike, thanks so much for your time. I know you're a really, really busy guy, and I really, really appreciate you coming on today. Before you go, is there anything this year, gaming-wise, that you're really looking forward to getting your hands on? Is there anything that you're anticipating release of that you're looking forward to playing that I can maybe take a look at? Yeah,
it's funny. I am a kind of hoarder of games, so I don't honestly have a lot. I'm not the person who has like their top 20 list of the year. There's a couple of games I played recently that are pretty fun. Obviously, like everybody, I'm playing Helldivers. It's kind of the current wave, but there's Pacific Drive is a really interesting one by a small studio. It's sort of their first game. It's kind of, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I'll try and figure out what they're. But yeah, you're basically driving a car around and like there's like crazy sci-fi stuff going on, and you upgrade your car and kind of deal with crazy weather and. Not entirely sure what else is going on. It's pretty interesting. But then, obviously, I think like everybody, I'm curious to see what GTA 6 ends up being whenever that ends up coming out. But yeah, it's I pay attention to a lot of like indies. Like I don't know, a lot of the people I follow on Twitter are sort of the indie crew. So some friend of mine just released a game called Regency Solitaire, which is pretty cool. It's like nice. solitaire, but they add it's like fantasy sort of story narrative around it, which is an interesting twist on the whole idea. And I got trapped in that for about 4 hours last night. So, but yeah, it's I play a lot of games. I think I have 3,000 games on my Steam profile. So, it's there's a lot. Well, there's one studio that we started working with. Their trailer dropped on Friday. They're called Fun Dog Studios. Forever Winter is their game. And they blew up a little bit since then, actually. Cool. Really, really nice. Good guys. And the trailer looks awesome. So if you get a chance, check that out. Nice. I'll check it out.
I'm looking forward to get my hands on that for sure.
Yeah, I'm a perpetual dabbler. I play 5 to 10 hours of a million games instead.
I'm similar. Yeah.
Like playing World of Warcraft for 20 years. That's not me. I have thousands of games and I love just checking them all out.
Well, Forever Winter is their game, and it's I think it looks pretty cool. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, co-op. I love co-op. That's definitely my thing.
Nice. Mike, thanks so much for your time today. You've been an absolute star. I've really enjoyed learning about your journey. Super interesting. And thanks for the tips
for having me.
For job seekers. No, anytime, man. And hopefully we can meet up in person. Maybe next year's GDC.
I wish I was going to GDC, but it isn't going to happen this year, unfortunately. So
2025, hopefully. Nice one.
Exactly.
Cheers.
We just got to survive this year of chaos.
Survive till 25, mate. Survive till 25.
Exactly. It's the motto for everyone, I think.
Yeah. Cheers, dude. Take care of yourself.
Cheers. Bye.